Hello and welcome to another tutorial from Blender Cookie. This is David Ward, and in this tutorial we're going to be creating a creepy crawly little spider. Well, not little spider, it'd be a big spider. We're going to use a tarantula as our reference. And so in order to get that reference, I'm going to take you to this website called the Stock Exchange, sxc.hu. I guess they're based out of Hungary. So anyways, this is a nice place to come and find some nice royalty-free, well, not completely royalty-free, mostly royalty-free images. You can read about them in the terms of use down here. But we're not going to be using them for texture maps or anything, just as reference. So let's look up tarantula. As you see, I already looked it up earlier today. And it brings up quite a few images, which is good. So let's just take a few of these, pop a few of these open here so we can just get an idea of how our spider is going to be arranged. There we go. Okay, now I'll go ahead and close the parent tab there. Just click on the image itself so it loads by itself in the window. And go ahead and view the image there, view the image there, and view that image. Okay, so we're going to try to make us a little spider that kind of looks like one of these guys. So let's go ahead and minimize this and jump back into Blender here. I'm going to delete the default cube and I'm going to add a cylinder like so. And I'm going to decrease the vertices way down to 6. And then the radius, I'll leave that alone. And the depth also I will leave alone. So let's tab into edit mode, rotate that guy 90 degrees on the x-axis. Tell you what, let me turn on my screencast display here. And make that up to, let's try 30. Start display. And you can see my mouse, which keys I'm clicking here. I'm actually scrolling the mouse wheel. You can also zoom in holding. I don't remember all the keys, but anyways. So now we have, this is going to be the start of our spider. We're going to start with the thorax. If I remember my biology classes correctly, that's what the back rear end is called. So let's go ahead and get rid of these vertices on this side. Let's delete those guys. Go to our modifiers and add a mirror. And we'll go ahead and turn on clipping. Okay, so now we're going to add a couple of loops here. And just start kind of sculpting this guy out a little bit. Oops, select the right edge there. And one thing we can do is just select everything and hit W smooth, and it'll kind of give it a more rounded appearance like so. Okay, so now let's grab these faces, go to face select mode, extrude out just a little bit, maybe scale it down some, and then we're going to extrude out again. And now we're going to work on the, well, insects have the abdomen. Let's see, the head, thorax, and abdomen. Or head, abdomen, thorax, in that order. But spiders, well, like I said, I'm no biology expert. I remember very little about biology class, but it looks to me like they just have a head and a thorax, or maybe that's their abdomen. I don't know. But we're just going to put the two of them on there. Okay, so we're kind of getting the basic shape down. Grab the front end there. Actually, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to delete that vertex right there. And I'm going to grab these two edges here and make a face. Since we had 3 edges there and then, you know, down the middle as an edge, we can make a 4-sided face right there, which is what we're going to start working on first. Scale that down. We're going to put the little mandibles on our little spider guy here. If we go back to our reference, you can see that this particular type of spider kind of has 2 different sets of mandibles. You got the main ones there on the front of his face, and then some much bigger ones right beside them. And then you have the 8 legs on either side. So it almost looks like he has 10 legs, but these 2 here are just secondary mandibles. So let's go ahead and create the primary ones first. We're going to turn off clipping for now, and let's kind of rotate those out just a little bit. Let's go to top view and start extruding out. Scale it down just a little bit. And let's go to our side view now. And let's turn on our rotation manipulator gizmo and set it to normal. Let's rotate that down like so. Extrude out just a little bit more. Rotate, move it down. Maybe about to right there. Extrude out a little more. Rotate. So we get a nice curve here. Maybe select that guy and rotate him a little more. Select all these. I always start whispering when I when I get into small spaces when I'm modeling. Okay. And almost there. Okay. So that'll be his primary mandibles. Let's go ahead and smooth them up just a little bit. There we go. Maybe even move them a little closer together. Let's select these guys here. And tell you what, let's make them a little shorter. There we go. Okay, so now we'll work on the secondary mandibles, which I'm going to grab this face right here. Hit E to extrude one time, and just go ahead and right-click out so it kind of locks it in, and then we'll scale it down. And then I'm going to grab this vertex there and kind of square this up a little more evenly so it's not as skewed. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put a loop in here just for later on. And you know what? Let's put a loop right there just so we can get a little bit more roundedness. I guess I need to turn clipping back on. There we go. Scale on the z-axis. And maybe a little on the x-axis. Okay, there we go. Just kind of rearrange this a little bit, get it set back up properly. There we go. Okay, so now we'll grab face select mode again. Get this new area right here. And kind of do the same thing we did with the front mandibles. Let's extrude out just a little bit. Maybe scale it down just a little. Extrude out again. These are going to come out a little further, so we'll start angling them up. Okay, and now we can start the edge. Okay. So let's go to our top view and let's rotate those out and actually straighten them up a little bit. Zoom in here so I can see what I'm doing a little better. Okay, now we'll grab this whole section here. Put our 3D cursor right there at the beginning of it, about right there. And now we'll hit period so we can rotate around it. Just kind of set it up to where it's a little bit further in. You know what, let me undo this till we get back to where we started. And let's turn on the proportional editing to connected so we can kind of get a better, smoother transition there from its base. Okay. And now let's grab these front guys, put the 3D cursor there, rotate those. About like so. Okay. So we got the mandibles pretty well taken care of. Tell you what, let's do. Let's add one more loop right there, and let's scale it up. So put the influence of the proportional editing. And actually, let's hit Alt-S to make it skinnier and along its normals instead of just making it bigger. Let's grab this middle vertex loop on the joint there and make that a little bit fatter as well. So we get a little bit of sharper edge there on the angle. Okay. Now, real quick before we start on the legs, let's jump in here and give him some eyeballs. Let's go to front view and kind of angle it down to where it's a little bit better oriented. So let's grab this main face here. Again, turn off clipping real quick. We're going to extrude and then scale it. Well, we're still rotating around the 3D cursor, so Control, comma, and Alt 0 to turn off the proportional editing. Some of those shortcuts become a pain in the neck if you don't remember to turn them off. Okay, so we'll just scale that down about like so. This is going to be his main eyes. We're going to give him 4 different eyes. Now, again, I'm not a professional spider knowledgeable person. I don't even know what that would be. I don't know much about spiders. But this isn't going to be an anatomically correct spider by any means. Anyways, so just as long as we give him some creepiness, it should look pretty decent, I think. So we got what's going to be the eye socket. Let's go ahead and extrude that in. And let's give a loop right there just so we don't have any weird deformations when we start putting a rig together. Go ahead and delete that face. We don't need it. And tell you what, let me go ahead and grab the edge here. I'm going to extrude that in. Scale it down a little bit. Okay. And we'll go to front view. I'm going to Shift S and I'm put the cursor to the selection, and now I'm going to Shift A and I'm going to add a UV sphere. And since we're in edit mode, it went ahead and added that sphere to our spider model. So it's all part of the same mesh now, which is what we want right now. So segments, I'm going to set that down to 6. Rings also are going to be 6. Size, let's put that down to 0.25. That's still too big. Let's try 0.1. And it's still a little big, but we can resize it over in the window now. So let's just scale it right there. And if you want to, go ahead and rotate it to where it's kind of pointing the right direction. It really doesn't matter since we're not going to be animating the eyeballs. But I just want to go ahead and put it there so it looks about right. And one more thing we can do while we're working. Let's go ahead and turn on a subdivision surface so we can kind of get an idea. Now I'm going to leave it with the flat shading for now because, well, I just kind of like the way it looks, and it just seems like it's easier to get a little bit better topology when you can actually see how the angles are going to react with the subsurf on there. So tab back in edit mode. Let's move the eyeball back just a little bit. Maybe a little bit inwards. Okay. And now, tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and grab the outline around the eyeball, and let's move that a little closer in. Turn on clipping again. Move that a little closer together. About like so. You know, maybe make it a little bit bigger too. Make sure we don't cross over the middle there, because then they'd glue together. That wouldn't look very good. Okay, so now I'm going to take this little area right here, and we're going to extrude that. And go ahead and turn off proportional editing, scale that way down. Go ahead and grab these two guys and just kind of scale them to where they're a little closer together. There we go. And going to turn this into another eye socket. Just scale that down a little bit, and we'll just delete the faces. Okay. So let's grab that sphere, Control L, and you know what, before we do that, let's get rid of the back side of it. Since like we're not going to be animating these eyeballs, there's just going to be little black dots. So we don't really need the whole thing. So let's just select that loop right there if you can see it. Delete those faces, and then we'll select one of the remaining, Control L, and delete all of that. So now we just have basically a forward-facing sphere, or half sphere, semisphere. Semisphere? Yeah, that's right. Hemisphere. I don't know. Okay, Control L to select all that, and we're going to Shift D down here, scale it down a little bit, and maybe just rotate it some. Kind of position that into that other eye socket. Okay, so now we have 4 different eyeballs. If you wanted to keep adding some more, you could. Maybe you want to add some more up here on the top of his head. You know what? Let's go ahead and do that. Might as well, right? It's a creepy spider. Turn off clipping, extrude, scale it way down. Not too far down, about right there maybe. And then we'll W smooth, see if that can help with that squareness a little bit. That one goes so far. Okay. Let's add more loop right there. And then we'll just grab those and just move them closer to each other. Okay, and let's make that have a little bit more surface area. And let's see, let's just select those guys and rotate them. Alto, turn on proportional editing. And before we go any further, turn on clipping. There we go. Okay, so let's scale that down a little bit more close together. Okay, now let's grab that. Oops. Extrude in, scale down just a little bit. Delete face. Okay, now we'll grab one of those eyeballs again. Control L. Go to our top view and move him. Oops, need to Shift D and then move him into position. Okay, so there we go. Now let's make those even a little bit bigger. What do you say? These will be his main eyeballs. Topology is not real great here, but we're not really going to be animating any facial expressions or anything, so I think we can probably get away with it this time. Now, if you want to animate like a cartoon spider, you'll probably want to use a different technique to create the face area. Because like I said, this isn't the best topology, and it won't deform very well probably if you try to animate it. So, this is just a basic spider. Okay, so we got 6 different eyeballs. Now, let's work on the legs. Let's go to side view, and all the legs are going to come from this head abdomen area. So let's move the body back a little bit. Give us some room to work with here. And 4 legs on each side, so let's put 3 cuts on here. There we go. And let's grab these guys down here. Now I want to extrude these all. Extrude them so we can build the legs from them, but I also want to do them individually. So if I grabbed all 4 of these and extruded, it would extrude as one piece. But I don't want to do that. I want to extrude 4 separate pieces. So I'll just grab these 2, extrude those out, then grab these 2, extrude those out. So it does a nice extrusion of each one. I guess we could also, grab all those and say individual origins. No, didn't do it. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we got these guys. That's what we were looking for. There we go. We got individual origins already selected, which is good. I want to scale them along their own, what would it be? Y-axis? No? I'll just scale on the global Y-axis. Oh, and when I extruded, I failed to turn off clipping, so let's go all the way back. There we go. Now turn it off. Okay. You know what? Yeah, okay. Sometimes I change my mind in the middle of changing my mind. So we'll just scale those out and scale them. Extrude those out and then scale them down. Okay, then we'll extrude those out, scale them down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now we have the place to put our 4 legs on each side. Let's grab each of those and rotate them to where they're pointing more or less towards the side. Maybe scale them down a little bit. And then let's scale them like so, so where they're more squared. A little bit more. They're kind of skewed now, aren't they? So let's grab the edge select. There you go. Just move those all like so. Okay. Now, tell you what, let's move them a little bit further towards the side. Rotate them around. Maybe scale them a little bit bigger. They're rotating, that's weird. Okay, so that's about right. So let's grab let's just grab that one. And let's start working on the leg. So let's take a look at our reference again. Kind of get an idea of how the legs are on there. Okay, this one looks decent. So it kind of comes down and then up and then up and then up and then down. So let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pieces to our leg. So we got a hip bone and then a thigh and then a shin and then an ankle and then a toe. I guess that's the way you could think of it. So let's go ahead and start off here. Let's extrude out just a little bit and we'll do it again. Again, start curving around a little bit more. Okay, and we'll extrude up, kind of just bring that up there, about like so. Extrude out again. Down to about right there. Okay. Extrude out a little bit, rotate. Okay, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So one more segment here. And scale that down a little bit. Okay, so there's one spider leg. So let's do this. Before we create the other one, let's go ahead and put the other ones. Let's go ahead and put a loop around, or a seam around this loop. Control E, mark the seam. And then we will just grab this loop here and then deselect this guy. There we go. And we'll Control E, mark a seam there. Okay, so now we have our leg ready to unwrap, but we need to do a few things first, of course. So we'll select that whole leg, and since we have it wrapped around, the seam wrapped around the end of it, we can just grab one of the faces and hit Control L, and it selects all of those faces inside that seam. So let's go ahead and extrude this guy, or not extrude, but duplicate him out, and rotate, turn off the individual origins, go back to median point. Okay, and then we will rotate him up a little bit and drag him back. And let's go ahead and do the other guys. The front two. There we go. And one more. Okay, now let's go in here and select each of these faces that the legs are going to attach to. That guy's way down there. Okay, I'm just like, there we go. Well, there we go. Okay. And then this guy, and then that guy. Okay, just go and delete those. And now we're going to attach the legs to the rest of the legs to the body. So we don't get them skewed, the start of the legs. We're going to select the vertex here on the leg first, and then shift select the vertex on the body and go Alt M. And we're going to merge them at the first, and that means at the first vertex we selected. So as long as we do this, our legs will keep their shape. So just select the leg first and then the body, and Alt M at first. We'll do this on all 3 remaining legs, or all 2 remaining legs now, I guess. Okay, and finally this guy. Okay, now tell you what, let's do. They're all kind of uniform right in a row, and I guess that can work, but it looks a little non-lifelike to me. So let's select this loop right here on the very back leg. Shift S. Cursor to selected, and let's go to our top view now, and let's rotate this whole leg. Let's grab our face select and select that leg. There we go. And let's turn on Alto, turn on the proportional editing, and we're going to rotate around the 3D cursor, so the period button, and let's rotate that back some, about like so. And then we'll go ahead and move them back, about like so. Okay. And let's grab this leg here, Control L, and we'll just go ahead and move him back a little bit. No need to really rotate. And then let's grab that front leg, Control L, rotate him Actually, it's control comma, so we don't rotate around the 3D cursor anymore. Just kind of put him up there. And let's grab that guy. Let's move him a little further back along the head. Speaking of the head, let's reshape it just a little bit. And let's turn on clipping. Reshape it just a little bit. Maybe about like so. And then maybe bring these guys down. You can kind of stylize this however you want. It's your spider. Okay. So I think that's looking pretty decent. Let me throw a little bit of variation here amongst the legs. For the most part, they're mostly the same size, roughly. Looks like the back legs might be a little bit longer, and then the front legs might be a little bit smaller. So the two middle legs are about the same, and then the back legs might be a little bigger. So let's try that. Control L. You know what? Let me rotate that just a little bit more. Maybe about right there, and make them a little bit bigger. And I'm going to grab this joint here, right there, scale that up some. Maybe grab this joint here, scale that up a little bit as well. And then maybe let's grab this front leg, make them a little smaller. Actually, let's go ahead and put our 3D cursor where I want the leg to be. Deselect everything, just click front and side so I can get it there. There we go. Okay. Rotate a little further. Period to rotate around 3D cursor. A little further towards the front. Maybe a little smaller. Bring it in some. Okay, so there we go. Let's go ahead and turn on the smooth shading. Grab them first, smooth shading. And you can kind of see how our spider's going to look. Let's go to side view. Make sure all the legs are going to be flat on the ground. Let's grab each one of these. Each tip of the spider toe. Is that what you would call that? Let's just grab this whole section here. Move those up. Okay. So there we have our basic spider model. Now, what we need to work on now is we got the legs UV unwrapped. Let's do the rest of it. Let's do the mandibles here first. The very front ones. Control E, mark the seam, and then we'll go down the side. If I can grab it. There we go. Make sure we're doing the right one. Yes. Let's zoom in here. We don't need this guy, so let's Control E, mark that seam, and then we will grab this guy. And let's Control E, mark that seam. And then tell you what, let's grab one of the faces and let's pull him out just a little bit. Looks a little strange there at the base. Control comma. Okay, so now we'll grab the edge select again. Select one edge there, all the way down, and then like I said, on the first one we don't need this guy either. Control E, mark that seam, and then let me select this whole loop here around the middle, actually just that one, and then all the way down the body to there, and we'll Control E and mark that one. Okay, so that's pretty well all set. So let me go ahead and save this. Let's call it Spider. I'm going to name it Spider 2 since I was playing with it earlier. I have Spider already taken and Spider 1, so I'll name it Spider 2, and we'll save. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and start working on a texture map. So let me go ahead and apply the mirror modif. Actually, tell you what I want to do. This is going to be a fairly symmetrical spider. Let's look at our reference here. You can see they're pretty well the same, symmetrically speaking. So I don't want to paint both sides and try to get both sides accurate. So what I'm going to do, let's go and split up my window here. go to my UV image editor, and I'm going to tab into edit mode, select all of those edges, and let's go to vertex select. And we're going to unwrap, and it's going to unwrap our UV coordinates here. But it's only unwrapping half because technically we only have half of a model. We just have the mirror modifier on there making it a full model. But that's the trick. Since the mirror modifier is on there, we can see the full half. Well, instead of trying to explain it, let me just show you. Let's go ahead and do the average, the scale, and then pack them a little easier. And for some reason, it likes to bunch some of these up together that I don't like. So turn off proportional editing. There we go. Okay, so let's move all the eyes to just this area out here away from all the rest of it. And it doesn't really matter. We're going to give them their own materials anyway. But now I want to select everything and go UV's pin. Okay, and it's going to pin them all into that position. So now when I tab out and go apply my mirror modifier, tab back in, you can see now these kind of have an opaque look to them. They're not completely transparent like they were before. That's because we now have both sides of the UV map basically stacked on top of each other. So you can see if we move this vertex, the corresponding one on the other side is directly beneath it. So anything we paint on here will be perfectly mirrored onto the other side. So, okay, let's go ahead and create a new image. And why not? Let's make it 2048 by 2048. And you know me, I like to use the UV test grid. And we'll say OK. So now if we come over here and go to texture paint, you can see that UV texture map is applied. And if you zoom in, you can see where it mirrors right down the middle. Okay, so we're ready to start painting on this guy. Take one more peek at our reference. It's mostly like a kind of a dark brown, almost black, with hints of tan here and there, maybe a little bit of a reddish brown on the, I guess, the knees, knuckles, whatever you want to call them. So let's just grab a dark brown here, kind of a grayish, dark grayish brown, about right there maybe. Okay, and let's down here in our tools under project paint right there. If we turn off occlude, cull, and normal, any swipe of paint we put across here, it's going to paint everything that's under the cursor. So if we rotate around, you can see that it painted on the other side as well. And since it's mirrored, it mirrors it perfectly on there. So let's change our strength of our brush up to 1.0, which makes it 100%. And we'll just go ahead and paint our spider here, like so. And if we want to get a little more detailed, we can come over here, go image painting, and let's hit the plus sign there, make our brush a little bit bigger. There we go. Maybe a little bigger. There we go. And let's just paint in here so we don't have any edge overlap or anything. There we go. I guess we could, if we wanted to, just go color or blank, but then that would make it black. So I'll just leave it as is. Just paint in here like so. Okay, now as I mentioned, our eyeballs are going to be separate materials, but just for visual sake, let's go ahead and make them black right there so we can kind of see them a little bit better. Okay, now let's grab that tan color right there. Okay, maybe a little more yellow in it, a little brighter. Okay, and let's set our strength down quite a bit. And let's take one more peek at our reference. So it's kind of tan around the edges and the ends. Okay. Let's go to top view. Zoom in here, make our brush a little smaller. And one problem you might run into when you have a mirrored texture map like this is when you're painting like right here, it paints on both sides at the same time. So you kind of get that overlap ugliness right there. But you can always go back and fix that easy enough. Okay, so right now we're painting onto the eyeballs as well, but we can go back and fix that here in just a couple of seconds after we get everything all situated. Another setting you can turn on that makes your brush so it's not quite a solid stroke is just go to your paint curve and select this brush shape right there. And it's more of a kind of an airbrush type of look. So tool, paint stroke, there it is. Nope. Texture, paint. There we go. Okay, set the strength up just a little bit. Okay, and let's clean up this area back here. Back here. There we are. Okay, just kind of fade that in there. And a little bit on the very back end. Okay, and then, like we said, across the knuckle areas. So let's just zoom in here, make our brush a little smaller. Top view, just across the knuckles. Like so. And then down here. And then we can kind of see where it's at here. And let's just run our brush, make it a little bigger. Run our brush across these like this so we don't have any breaks in the texture map there. Okay. Now one thing we can do to help we're going to add fur later on, but for right now let's do a little trick to add some extra variation there. And we're going to use a brush we're going to paint on with a texture. So let's go to texture and let's just say new, and we'll name this I don't know, cellular. It's going to have a nice cellular shape, so let's go over here and start editing this. And on the clouds, let's change it to Voronoi F1. Okay, and everything that's black, actually let's go to ramp. Everything that's black is going to be transparent, and then everything that's white here in this cloud is going to be the color that we choose. So let's choose this color. Let's make it kind of that dark brown. So just right click in there. Okay, here we go. I don't know what that is. Appearance. Anyways, so we're going to paint with that dark brown a little bit. Let's not paint directly in the center. I'll do that until it clears that up. Okay. Just kind of paint this in here like so. Give a little bit more variation, a little more realism, if you will. Tell you what, let's make the pale yellow color there we go. Okay, so this way when we put the particle hair, it'll look a little bit better. Okay, so let's do those mandibles. What do those look like? Kind of the same as the legs. Yeah, so let's just do a little bit of on the knuckle areas here. Okay. Keep forgetting we just have to do the one side. And then these guys are pretty solid, that dark brown. Let's just make those that dark brown, maybe even a little darker. Paint that on there. Let's go over here and look at it. Okay, so it's going to be these guys here. Maybe blend it in a little bit better up there. Let me get some of this darkness dispersed a little bit further throughout. Sometimes when we work with the bigger images, it kind of bogs down your computer a little bit, depending on your specs. Okay, so I think that'll work for our texture map. Let's clean that area right there up just a little bit, right there. Grab this color here. Tell you what, let me just turn that texture paint off. There we go. Okay, I think that'll work. Let's go ahead and save this image. Excuse me. Save as image and Blender files under the spider folder. Spider, there you are. And we'll call this spider underscore texture map. And save. It's taking a little bit to save that image. Not responding. Don't crash on me now, Blender. Stand by. Okay, all clear. Okay, so we got the texture map. Let's give that other material for the eyeballs real quick. Go back to object mode and let's create a material for the spider. And we'll need to set its specular way down. Don't want it shiny at all. Materials, new, image, and then choose the untitled, which is spider texture. There we go. And mapping is going to be UV. Okay, so now if we were to render, actually let's do that. It renders out that texture onto our spider. Okay. So, like I said, one more thing, and then I'll call this done. Time's running a little longer than I expected. So let me say black eyes, and let's just make the diffuse color black, and change the specular to ward ISO, and then change the intensity all the way, not all the way up, but pretty high, and then the slope way down. If we go to our monkey head, you can see it makes it look real shiny. And then let's give it a little bit of mirror. That really helps eyes look more realistic when they have a little bit of mirroring to them. Just a little bit. About 0.05 is probably good. Okay, so now we'll tab into edit mode, select all 6 of those eyeballs. Okay, Control L, there we go. And assign. Okay, so now go ahead and save this guy. If we're to render again, you can see the eyeballs look a lot more shiny. Okay, so that's going to be it for part 1 here. Part 2, we'll get in and we'll play with the particle hair, and depending on how long that takes, we'll probably go ahead and build the rig for the little guy as well. We're going to rig him up so we can put him in some cool poses. So, like I said, that's going to be all for part 1. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.